Hello, this is the Captain Paxo, welcoming you back to the weekly hunt. We're on week 7 now, and, well, look at this. We actually have some interaction going on in the Gathering Hub. How often does this happen? This was actually in a online session with just me and one of my friends, and some random came in and started helping us out with the quests and was hanging out in the Gathering Hub. And it's just like, this sort of stuff just doesn't happen in the online sessions that have really large numbers in them, you know, with the 10, 11, 12, whatever, however many people are in these online sessions. This sort of stuff just doesn't happen. People just join those online sessions and then do their own thing, like, you know. But that guy was just, he just came along and started helping us out with the quest that my friend was going through. It was just really cool and something that I've never seen before. This is also something that I haven't really experienced too much of either, is Devil Joe invading other quests. This is like, my god. Devil Joe, Lava Zeoth, and Uragan. This is not somewhere where I want to be with a greatsword. I mean, I'm not super uncomfortable with a greatsword, but it's definitely not my preferred weapon of choice. I'd much rather use something like a lance or a switch axe in this scenario. Or a sword and shield, you know. It's like, in this situation, I'm like, I need to get out of here. I need to reposition. I need to get Uragan and Devil Joe to leave so I can take on Lava Zeoth by myself. Which, Lava Zeoth, he's kind of like Gyros in my eyes. He's a monster that is unfortunately very forgettable and doesn't feel all that incredible. His armor's alright, his weapons are pretty good actually, but the fight itself isn't, I mean, I can't say it's like bland, but it feels lacking in some aspects, especially coming from players who, well, this is their first Monster Hunter game. You look at Lava Zeoth and you're like, well, it's just the lava version of Gyrotodas, you know, which I'm sure a lot of people are like that with Gyrotodas. Like, they've played Monster Hunter before, they've fought Lava Zeoth, so they look at Gyrotodas and it's just sort of like, well, that's just like a mud version of Lava Zeoth. Like, what's special about this guy, you know? But one of the cool things, or rather the only cool thing about Lava Zeoth, is that his armor that's made of lava, well, when it's molten, you can hit it, you can damage it, you don't bounce off of it, it's very soft, it's a weak point, but when it starts to cool down and it starts to harden, the opposite happens. You start doing not much damage at all, your weapons bounce off unless you have like white sharpness or mind's eye or something like that. And although Lava Zeoth is like 3 weak to lava, 3 weak to water when his armor is molten, and 2 weak to water when his armor is hardened, I imagine that using water is just going to cool down his armor a heck of a lot faster than any other type, meaning that his armor hardens a lot faster. So if you're using a weapon that has like Mind's Eye, like a hunting horn, or has white sharpness, then you're going to probably want to use water, because it's just going to deal the most damage. If you don't, then it might actually be smarter to use a fire weapon, because that will keep his armor molten, allowing you to actually hit it without having to worry about needing white sharpness or Mind's Eye, you know? Because I'm pretty sure that'll work, because it works with the Slinger Torch, the fiery stones that you can pick up and throw at with like by loading into your slinger. You can throw them at Lava Zeoth and it'll actually melt his armor. It'll turn it from like a rock hard to, well, being molten, and you'll be able to hit it again, which is really cool. I'm trying to capture Lava Zeoth in this hunt, but I've been using the Flashfly cage with my Palico, so monsters just tend to get really resistant to the shock trap, so I put that down and it doesn't work, it doesn't trap them, so I couldn't capture Lava Zeoth in that instance, so then I put a Pitfall trap in it, and fucking God damn it! Uragan walks into it. Yeah, nice one. Oh, damn, that massive fireball that Lavasioth fires out. It lands, and then it sits there for a split second, and then it explodes. It does a ton of damage, and it's not particularly easy to avoid either. It's got a big range. But, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, where once you fight a lot of it, you kind of get used to it, and it's not so much of a threat anymore. But, of course, this is me doing the Kulu-Yuku event quest with this gigantic Kulu-Yuku. Look at him! He's like the size of a Baroth. Can you imagine Devil Joe picking this guy up in his mouth? Like, how ridiculous would that look? It'd be amazing. I want to see Devil Joe pick up like an Anjanath or something. That'd be crazy. Oh god. But yeah, this is the one for the Kulu-Yuku head, which gives you Pro Transporter. Excuse me. Gives you Pro Transporter, which, unless you're doing like an egg quest, is useless. You know. So aside from that, it's pretty much just a cosmetic thing. It's got decent elemental resistances, decent physical, decent slots. They're all decent, but Pro Transporter, like, nothing to me. I think I will just ignore that. I'll just use other headgear, like the incredibly popular Dragon King Eye Patch, giving you weakness exploit, because this set that I'm doing right now is a critical build, trying to get as much critical attack out of the Greatsword as possible, and it is fun, but I've said it before and I'll continue to say it again and again and again. I'm not really the biggest fan of builds that focus purely on doing critical damage or as much physical damage as possible. You know, I prefer to use builds that maybe focus on a certain aspect of a weapon, maybe like the ability to mount monsters and then use Part Breaker to try and maybe quickly break parts of the monster that are hard to reach, like the wings or the back or something like that, which is something I've been doing with my Sword and Shield build at the moment. It's my current favourite SNS build, which uses the... I can't remember the set entirely. It's like the butterfly helmet, the Doba chest piece, I believe. The Kadachi gauntlets, and I can't even fucking remember the greaves. But the main crux of it is to use Master Mounter, Airborne, and Part Breaker. Airborne increases the damage you do with jumping attacks. Master Mounter obviously makes it easier to mount monsters, and Part Breaker to break those parts that are hard to reach. I'm a big fan of it. It's not the most effective build in the world, but who gives a shit about meta, right? Like, someone put a comment on a video a few days ago, or the other day, which was basically like, oh, why would you ever use this build? Like, we already know what's meta. We're like... It's basically questioning, like, the reason for using any build other than a meta build. It's just like, really? Are you the sort of person who only plays the most efficient way possible? Man, you must have a really boring playstyle. Like, holy shit. Because as much as meta is strong, it gets very boring very quickly. Because I'm a man of variety, you know? Variety is the spice of life and all that. I like doing a lot of different things in the games that I play, which is one of the reasons why I'm absolutely in love with Monster Hunter, you know, that there's just so many different ways I can play, even amongst the same weapon. You know? So to just completely deny that aspect of this game and just say, oh, well, you have to play this one way, everything else is just suboptimal, sub-meta, and ultimately not that good, you're denying most of the game. You're denying probably like 90% of the game. Like, well, what's the point in doing this if it's not giving you the best results possible? because it's fun. Because at the end of the day, this is, well, a fucking video game. Every game is a fucking video game. They're designed to be entertaining. They're designed to be fun. And the way that you find that fun is you play in the way that you want to. You play in the way that you find most fun, and you will, well, have the most fun, obviously. So it's very frustrating to see that there are people with this, like, 100% efficiency mindset that don't believe in using anything that isn't 100% efficient, because it's not 100% efficient, which means there's no point in using it. It's that kind of thing that kind of, like, stopped me, or got me burnt out on Warframe. You know, in Warframe, there's not a lot of ways you can really play to have a lot of fun. It's pretty much like they designed the game in such a way as to, unless you want to spend a really, like, stupid amount of time trying to farm one particular thing, you kind of have to play in the most efficient way possible, which inevitably leads to more burnout. You know, the more efficient you play, the quicker you're going to get burnt out. That's just what I find. So that's why I like playing all sorts of different stuff in Monster Hunter, and why it's going to be very interesting when I start to do the week of the weapons, where I start to use, or I use a singular weapon for an entire week. It's going to be very difficult for me, but at the same time it's going to inevitably get me very good at certain weapons. Like, it's going to get me very good at the Charge Blade, which is a weapon that I think I've protested my my disdain for in previous videos. I am not good with that weapon. It does not click with me at all, but you know, we'll get there eventually. I was actually thinking about doing like a week of the Greatsword this week, but considering we're super close to the Spring Festival event, I'd kind of decided against it, since next week is going to be just me doing a shit ton of events, and I thought, well, you know, if I'm going to be focusing on events, then it's going to kind of take away the focus on the weapon. Like, do I like this weapon, or what do I like about this weapon? What do I not like about this weapon? Did I get good with it? Did I not get so good with it? You know, that sort of thing. So again, that's going to be saved for a future time, because yeah, like I said, next week will be focused on events, because there's going to be a shit ton of them. There's going to be a bunch of new events for new gear, like the Mega Man crossover and the weapon design contest, where with the what is it, the rocket propelled greatsword, which looks badass, dude. It looks so cool. Can't wait to get that. But it's going to also have a bunch of events that I unfortunately missed out on. Like, I missed out on so many events in the first couple of weeks of playing this game because I was taking my sweet ass time. I was going at it at a snail's pace, and there were a bunch of events for like, oh, you know, do like high rank this, high rank that. So I missed out on some stuff. But with the Spring Festival event, I'm going to be able to replay those events and get all of the cool stuff that I missed out on. So I'm looking forward to it. And also, you know, the what's it called? The Gathering Hub is going to look a little prettier, which will hopefully incentivize more people to investigate and check it out and get a bit friendlier with people. But you never know; it might just be the same old case of people just joining 14 person lobbies to only do their own thing, you know, play joins online session filled with like 12 other people, proceeds to do quests solo and make it private. What is the point, dude? What is the point? Oh dear. God, look at these Gadulakas. These Gadulakas are doing so much to these monsters in this area. They put that Legiana to sleep like twice, and now they put that Basilgoose to sleep once, and I think they'll manage to do it a second time as well. I can't be the only person on the planet who, like, whenever Basilgoose interferes has a tendency to fight Basilgoose and just cut off its tail. Like, no more is it going to be tailless Rathaloses. It's now going to be tailless Basilgooses. Oh dear. It's just like, he keeps invading these areas. He keeps coming along and being like, I'm going to ruin your day. And you're like, no, I'm not having this anymore. Like, I used to just throw dung pods, but I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, dude, just stop. Like, get out of here. You need to learn some manners. But anyway. Yeah, I was going to do the week of the Greatsword, but part of me was like, I want to try out these different builds, and another part of me was like, I don't want to use a Greatsword for an entire week. Because it's like, as cool as the Greatsword is, I find it very difficult to fight certain monsters with. I find it very difficult to fight Basilgoose with it because there's a bunch of explosions going off everywhere, and I feel like high mobility is Basilgoose's weakness. And I found it very difficult to fight Odogaron with it as well, because as fast as Odogaron is, which means that he has a lot of openings for you to counterattack, the openings aren't that long. They're decently long. They're long enough for you to get a couple pokes in, but when it comes to a Greatsword, you're not going to be able to get a level 3 charge out of it, you know? So there's that. Unless he gets paralyzed, of course, which that always helps. Especially if you get a, what is it, a Lesser Gyros. You tame a Lesser Gyros, and then they can paralyze the Odogaron. Which is really nice until they start pushing you out of the way, because for some reason they decided it was a good idea to let friendly small monsters be able to displace your character. Your guess is as good as mine on that one. It really is. Oh dear. Speaking of things I'm not too fond of, Xeno'jiiva. I've talked about him in the past, so you guys know my frustrations with this monster, you know, like toenail damage, his head is too big, or is too high up and doesn't sit still long enough. He takes a really long time to kill, but I've gotten to the point now where whenever the Xeno'jiiva quest pops up, I'm not doing it, which is really bad, because his weapons are actually pretty darn good, and I think I've got all of his armor, but I'm missing like a bunch of his weapons, and I don't have enough Xeno'jiiva materials to be able to make all of the weapons. It's not a Zora Magdaros here, whereas I've got all of the materials I could ever need for Zora Magdaros to make all of the charms, all of the armor, and all of the weapons. I mean, I've already made all of the armor, and I've made nearly all of the charms. And even if I ever do run out, I can always do Zora Magdaros, because I don't mind doing Zora Magdaros, but Xeno'jiiva, I don't have enough, and I hate doing it. So it turns into this conundrum of like, I'm gonna have to do Xeno'jiiva at some point, but I really don't want to, because I just don't find it all that fun. So I'm gonna have to devise some sort of build that isn't an Insect Glaive build to efficiently dispose of Xeno'jiiva, because my current method for disposing of him is just to use the Pukey Insect Glaive and the Blunt Blast Kinsect, which I think is called like the Whisper Vesp or something like that. It's really good. It's one of the best Kinsects in the game because it has a ton of speed and it has Blunt, which will allow you to KO a monster, even though the glaive itself doesn't have any KO moves, and of course it has the Blast Dust, so just all in all it's a very good Kinsect. So usually I just cheese Xeno'jiiva with that, but that gets a bit boring after a while. Like, I've mixed it up a little bit by turning it from just a pure poison set into more of like a weakness exploit, and maybe I'll try and do like a critical status build, but I got the Apothecary Mantle on and the Affinity Booster, so it is more of like a weakness exploit build, but either way, it's still using the Insect Glaive, it's still spamming the aerial attacks, and it's still kind of not really all that fun. So I need to devise some sort of like bow gun build, or just a gunner build in general, to make it that much easier. Try and make it slightly less tedious. Variety is the spice of life and all of that sort of good stuff that I've just mentioned. Just try and mix it up in general. I don't really want to use any Blade Master weapon against Xeno'jiiva because the head just doesn't sit still long enough. And, well, the head is what drops the horns, and I need a lot of horns. I need so many horns. Horns for days. It's something I do not have. And gems. I need lots of gems as well. But gems drop like candy off of Xeno'jiiva. You don't have to worry about the gems. It's the goddamn horns that you have to worry about. You know? But anyway. What can you do? As we're fighting a tempered Duratotus, just trying to get more tempered investigations, because although I do have a lot, there are a lot that I'm missing. And more specifically, I think there's an optional quest that you only unlock after you fought like 7 different types of tempered monsters, threat level 2 tempered monsters. I can't remember what it's called, but I was looking it up on the wiki, because there was like a commendation, like it was like a blue commendation. I think it's called the like the Research Commission commendation or something like that. But there's only like 3 optional quests that you get that from, and one of those optional quests you get from taking on 7 different types of threat level 2 tempered monsters. So I think like Black Diablos, Azure Rathalos, Pink Rathian, that sort of stuff. So I need to do that sort of stuff to try and get that, because there are a lot of charms that require that to both make. No, I don't think there's any charms that require that material to make, but there's quite a lot of them that require that material to upgrade. So I'm going to need to be doing these sorts of quests quite a lot. Another one of those, or another one of the quests that you get that material from is by getting to Hunter rank 100, and it just unlocks it. Unless it's an assigned quest. It might be... No, I think it's an optional quest. So that's the second quest that you get it from. And then the third one is to just complete all optional quests that are like 8 stars and below. So I need to go do a bunch of optional quests, which I'll probably end up doing in the week after next, just to try and get this sort of stuff unlocked. Because at the moment I'm Hunter rank 96, so I'm pretty close to getting to Hunter rank 100, so I'll be able to unlock that. So one of the... what are they called? Quests that give you the Research Commission commendations. But of course I want to unlock the other 2 as well, and one of them gives the Evasion Mantle, which I think is the only piece of like special equipment that I'm missing. So that would be really useful to obtain. And of course, you know, completionist status and all that. But I don't think I've even mentioned what I kind of focused on this week. I tried to focus a bit on getting the charms, so at this point I only have 6 charms left to get, which is really nice. Well, until I unlock more charms, which I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will unlock some more charms, because it took me a while before I unlocked like the coating charms, the one that give you like poison functionality and para functionality and that sort of good stuff. So at some point I'm probably going to unlock even more charms. But at the moment I'm only missing 6. Most of them require Nergigante and Volhazak parts, so you know I'm going to be farming the tits off of those Elder Dragons at some point in the near future. But the other ones that I'm missing, I need 2 more Rathian Spike Pluses. Yippee. More Rathian Spike Pluses. I need a shit ton of those. And I also need a Rathalos Ruby, which is, you know, not too bad, not the end of the world. Something to fight a Rathalos or an Azure Rathalos for. I think I need to fight some more low-rank Rathalos. Like, I'm getting to the point now where I'm actually going to have to start fighting low-rank monsters again, which does make me quite sad, because I thought I was done with low-rank. Once I had like all of the low-rank armor, I kind of felt like I was done with low-rank. I mean, I knew I wasn't. I knew I was going to have to go back to low-rank at some point. It's just... I don't want to. I don't want to go back to low rank. You can't make me. You can make me. You just have to deny certain items to low rank, and then I'll be like, well, I guess I'm just gonna do low rank then. Oh dear. Hello, cat. The life of a completionist. I'm not usually a completionist. That's the thing. Like, I don't hunt trophies or achievements. Not that often, anyway. I don't like try and get everything there is to get in a game. But I just felt like doing it with Monster Hunter because it gave me an excuse to do it. And as awesome as it is to have like all of these things to do, it's gonna keep me playing for at least 1,000 hours. It's incredible. Like, I look at all the stuff that I have done in the game. Like, I've got over half of the high rank armor now, as well as all of the low rank armor. I've got all of the Palico gear, just every single piece of Palico gear. And I've recently done the monster PhD. I got that trophy, so I researched everything about every monster, like leveled up their research levels, which was actually what I was trying to focus on this week, which is why I'm fighting a lot of Lava Zeoth. I did a bit of Black Diablos, I did some Teostra, and some Kirin. Yes, cat. That was the purposes of this. So I've managed to do quite a lot. But then I look at all the things that I haven't done, like all of the high rank armor that I haven't got, and all of the weapons that I haven't got or fully upgraded, and like everything else. And I'm just sort of like, oh, I've done nothing. You know? So it's one of those things where it's like, I look at everything that I've done, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, I've done quite a lot, you know, 300 hours in, yeah, this is doing pretty good. And then look at all the things that I haven't done, I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't done anything. So, you know. Also, if this is the clip that I think it is, watch this. So I mount him, and then I'm off. Oh, what happened there? I mounted Lava Zeoth and he just immediately threw me off. I don't even know what that was. Like, I don't know. Answers on a postcard, people, because I have no fucking clue what that was. Oh dear, I've been extremely good at bumping the my desk today. I do apologise about that. Yeah, good excuse to keep playing though. Like, I definitely reckon that I'm going to end up putting over 1,000 hours into this game, which is really cool. It's kind of a little bit sad to me that like there's so many rewards for getting to a super high hunter rank. Like, the game doesn't tell you that you that's what you should be doing. It sort of lets you level up your hunter rank on its own up until certain points, and it's just sort of like, oh yeah, this is like, once you get to those thresholds, you get some more stuff, but it doesn't tell you that those are the things that you should be trying to go for. It's just sort of like, well, now you get to level up your hunter rank, which you couldn't before. Yippee! It just comes off as this like arbitrary reward for playing more. You know, it doesn't come across as the next thing that you should be focusing on until you get to those thresholds, like the hunter rank 29 and the 49 and then eventually 100. Like, I didn't even realize there was a reward for getting to hunter rank 100. So part of me is sort of like, man, they really should have communicated that a little bit better to try and incentivize people to try and get to hunter rank 100. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, you know what, this is actually just a really nice reward for all the people who actually kept playing Monster Hunter, even though they beat Xeno'jiiva, even though they beat the main story, they still decided to sit down and play. And so it's just a really nice reward for people who have decided to dedicate themselves to the game. So part of me is kind of a bit like, man, they should have communicated it better, but another part of me is like, you know what, it's fine. It's a nice little bonus for all the people who decided to stay with it, and if you miss out, then it's not really the end of the world. You're not going to feel like you're missing out on too much. because it's extra content. That's essentially what it is. It might as well be DLC in the sort of extra content that it is, but thank God it isn't DLC. Thank God there is actually an end game. Thank God that, you know, we can actually keep playing even if there isn't like a hard incentive to keep doing so. It's less of an incentive to keep playing and more of a reward for keep playing, I think. Is the key difference. This is the moment that I kind of decided that I needed to use a bit more of the shield guard. The shield guard? The guard dash with the lance. Because when you first look at it, you kind of think, well, what's the point in this? If I need to reposition, then I should just use the dash. And if I need to block, then I'm just gonna block. But the thing is, like, there's a lot of moves that the lance has that leave you wide open. And if you try to block, then you're going to end up, like, just sort of sitting there for half a second before you pull your shield up, right? But with those moves, you can almost immediately dash out of them. Thing is, the dash isn't or the evade rather, the evade isn't particularly safe, and if you're not confident in your ability to dodge a certain attack, you can then instead go for the shield dash, which gives you the ability to block whilst using the evade kind of mechanic of being able to do it directly after an attack. Like all attacks, you know. So it's actually a really powerful maneuver. That, and it gives you access to the shield bash, which could KO a monster, although I barely ever used that. Or the, like, kind of the jump thrust, where you jump forward and do like a triple attack. Which definitely isn't a weak move. It's not the strongest move, I don't think, but it's definitely not a weak move. It's definitely something you should consider using. This was quite interesting as well. This is a capture investigation, so if I accidentally kill Black Diablos, well, that's a failed investigation, right? But as Black Diablos was trying to run away, I hit it one too many times and accidentally aggroed it, so gotta be careful there. Because if you just put a trap down against the Diablos, if the Diablos goes underground, it will just completely destroy the trap, so you got to be a bit careful of that. So it's a little bit interesting. And we do a bit of Teostra. This is actually a different build. The one I was doing against the Black Diablos was more of like just a physical defense and guard lance set, whereas this set is a peak performance, like health regen set, where I'm using the Volhazak 3-set bonus, and, well, a bit of added guard, because you need a bit of guard, don't you? And I decided to use the Fireproof Mantle and the Vitality Mantle. Because when it comes to Teostra, the most dangerous moves he has for a Lancer is his fire attacks. So the Fireproof Mantle prevents you from getting set on fire when you're close to him, and they both prevent you from really taking any serious damage outside of that. Like, the Vitality Mantle will allow you to stay at full health whilst you have that extra health bar. And then the Fireproof Mantle prevents you from getting Fire Blight and Blast Blight. You know, which is just gravy, isn't it? And then, of course, the Kushala Daora Lance, because it's very powerful against Teostra. I think Teostra is 3 weak to ice. He's at least 2 weak, let's put it that way. And of course the Kushala Lance looks amazing, so of course I'm going to use it. Still have not maxed it out though, I still need a gem to be able to max it out. Little interesting, not really a story, but tidbit about Teostra. I told my friend that I really like Teostra, because, like, I don't find him to be particularly difficult. He's a good fight with a lance. But he found Teostra really difficult. He had a really hard time fighting Teostra. I was like, really? Teostra was just... he's not that hard for me at all. But conversely, I was having a ton of trouble with Volhazak, and he was like, I've killed Volhazak like 50 times. He's not a problem for me at all. So, it really does lend itself to, like, difficulty is subjective and all that. And I suppose it's one of those things that this game does really well, in that depending on what weapon you use against certain monsters, you're either going to have a really good time or a really bad time, you know? Even just ignoring, like, personal biases, you know? Certain weapons are going to have a harder time against certain monsters. Like, if you try and use a greatsword against Kirin, you're going to have a much harder time than someone who uses a bow against Kirin. Like, I feel like bow is just ridiculously overpowered against Kirin. It's like the easiest time you'll ever have against that monster. But if you try and use a greatsword, it is going to instantly become a heck of a lot more difficult. Which Kirin was one of the... well, actually it was the last monster that I needed to get the research levels for. Kirin was on level 3 and I needed to get him all the way up to level 6. So the rest of this video is going to be me just fighting Kirin with my sleep bow set. Sleep bombing bow set, which is insanely powerful against Kirin. It is so good. The Gigacool's, the Uragan bow, deals fire damage, which Kirin is 3 weak to, but it also has the sleep plus coatings, which means that its sleep coatings are stronger than any other bow with sleep coatings. And then it also gets access to blast coating. Both sleep and blast, Kirin is 2 weak to, by the way, like 2 stars weak to. So all in all, it's just a really effective strategy. And when Kirin, I mean, when any monster is asleep, they're not fighting you, and you're able to do a ton of damage to them with the wake up, especially if you use mega barrel bombs. So it makes the fight go by so much easier. This is basically, if you want Kirin easy mode, grab yourself an Uragan bow, grab yourself some sleep herbs, some fire herbs, make some sleep and blast coatings, get some mega barrel bombs, and just do this. The bow is so powerful against Kirin, because Kirin's lightning is pretty much his only offense, right? And what it does is it essentially punishes people who stay still. The bow never stays still, right? Just because of its, like, charge dash or charge evade, you are never staying still with this weapon, which gives Kirin a really hard time. Okay, Kirin's quite small and bounces all over the place, and when it becomes enraged, you can only hit the head, but that is a lot better than just getting instantly mugged because you sat still for half a second because you were recovering from an attack that left you open just a little bit too long, or you bounced off of his hardened hide, you know, with your weapon. It's so much better. Kirin, easy mode, done. Even against tempered Kirin, like I managed to take out tempered Kirin in about 10 minutes, give or take, which isn't breaking any records, but considering how safe I was able to stay, I think is pretty impressive. I did not know the Molotov cocktail could do this. Like, your Palico can place bombs next to your mega barrel bombs with the Molotov cocktail. I had no idea that that was a thing that it could do, but now that I do, I love the Molotov cocktail even more than I already did. Like, I already thought it was a really good gadget, just being able to dish out a ton of damage. But now it's even better because it stacks up with, like, mega barrel bombs and stuff. But this is not tempered Kirin. I think this was just a regular Kirin for me to warm up on, because I was not confident in taking out a tempered Kirin. Because the only 2 tempered Kirin investigations I had were nightmares. One of them was a 30-minute quest, which isn't too bad, you know, 30 minutes is completely doable. But it was a 1 feint quest, which is pretty nasty. If I faint once, I fail. Oh, great. No pressure or anything. no pressure against one of the most notoriously difficult monsters in this entire game that will most likely severely punish you. Well, will severely punish you for any mistakes you make. That investigation only gave me 3 rewards, which is I was a little bit salty about. You know, a one faint quest against a tempered elder dragon only gives me 3 rewards. What the fuck? But then the other investigation I had, in my humble opinion, was a little bit worse. 15 minutes, which is pretty nasty for me. Like, I'm not too confident in this. I can take out a Tempered Kirin in under 15 minutes, as I get obliterated. Yep, there you go, you're dead. And that's it, quest over. That was the only time I died. Last leg of the fight, and that's it. Quest failed. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. Well, we got an Azure Horn and some points. So we didn't get nothing, but it's frustrating, you know? But the 15-minute quest, 15 minutes, okay, that's a bit of pressure on the time. Got to get pretty good at fighting Kirin. And then it's a 2 feint quest as well. It's like, okay, so I get 2 mistakes. Because with the build that I'm currently using, not this build, it's a very similar build. It still uses the same weapons, same sleep bombing kind of style, but it's a little bit more efficient at it in terms of the offense. With that setup, if I get hit once, I'm dead. I get one shot by everything Tempered Kirin has. So the amount of feints I have in a quest basically determines how many mistakes I get to make. This is quite funny. I was very happy after that last quest, because I failed the last quest. This quest, I managed to get my comeuppance. I was like, yeah. There's nothing quite as satisfying as defeating a monster that completely wrecked you the first time, you know. So of course I'm gonna, again, boast about it. Yeah. But yeah, 15 minutes, 2 feints. It's not the worst. Like, it could be worse. It could be a 15-minute and a 1 feint, but that's still pretty much the nastiest Tempered Kirin quest that you could get. And the rewards for that? 2 tempered rewards. Are you fucking kidding me? Those are the only 2 investigations I got. I didn't have a choice. I had to do those 2. If I wanted to fight Tempered Kirin, I had to do those 2 shitty quests that had shitty conditions and shitty rewards. God fucking damn it. However, doing these Tempered Kirin quests did actually give me my very first Hero Streamstone. It gave me the Hero Streamstone Shaft, which is for the bow and the insect glaive. I'm using a bow right now. The Gigacools, or the Uragan bow, is a rarity 8 weapon. Uses a Hero Streamstone Shaft. Look at that. I actually got something that I wanted. The Desire Sensor was actually in my favour. Who'da thunk it? Who'da actually thunk it? But yeah, I'm now currently using a different build. The build I'm currently using, or the differences between this build and my new build, is I replace the Basilgoose helm with the Anjanath helm, because I don't need earplugs against Kirin. Who needs earplugs against Kirin? And Anjanath helm beta gives you level 2 of fire attack, which is all the fire attack that you need for the Gigacools. Uragan bow. Whenever I refer to Gigacools, that's what the Uragan bow is actually called. But yeah, you only need rank 2 of fire attack to max out the fire attack for Gigacools, right? Anjanath helm gives you that. Perfect. Flawless. Great. Could have gone with the Tobi Kadachi helmet to give me Constitution, but I decided the slots were a bit better on the Anjanath helm. So I went with that. I then replaced the Radoban chest piece for the Zora Magdaros chest piece beta, which I think gave me Blast Attack 2. I essentially traded level, or my 3rd level of Sleep Attack for 2 levels of Blast Attack, because I figured I'm gonna end up getting Sleep Attack level 3 eventually anyway when I get my Trank Charm to level 3, but in order to do that I need the research commission commendations, so I need to get the quests that give those as rewards. You know, you get the idea. It's going to be a while, but I decided I'm going to do this because it looks a little bit more like my finalized build. I then replaced my... I think I'm using the ingot greaves in this. It's really hard to tell, but I replaced those with the Dodogama greaves because that gave me my third and final blast attack. And then I replaced the Basal Boost coil because, again, don't need that fucking earplugs. It's useless. Get it out of here. And I replaced that with the Nergigante coil because damage. So all in all, it's a lot more of a damage-focused build, but I did end up sacrificing my level 3 sleep attack, which means I don't sleep Kieran as efficiently, and I also sacrificed 3 levels of health boost. Which basically means that even if I have a Thunderproof Mantle on, I still get one-shot. Which is good to know, actually, because once you have the knowledge that you're going to get one shot, you can completely ignore all of your defense. Defense, you don't need it, because if you're getting one shot anyway, then what's the point in your defenses? You might as well focus on doing as much offense as possible. You know, there's certain thresholds to where you don't need to worry too much about defense. This is what happens with a lot of the sleep bombing build, is going back to the item box and retrieving a bunch of like sleep herbs and stuff. If you couldn't do this anymore, like if you still couldn't do this rather, because you couldn't do this in previous Monster Hunter games, it would really hamper this build. It would nerf the shit out of this build. But because you can do it, it makes it incredibly powerful. You know, just an insanely powerful build. Train of thought, kind of gone, crashed, dumpster fire. What was I talking about? Motherfucker. The build. Defenses. Basically, if you get one shot by everything, then like I said, what's the point in focusing on defense of any kind? Just focus on pure offense, because you know you're going to die anyway. So I ended up replacing the Vitality Mantle and the Thunderproof Mantle with the Impact Mantle to try and get a little bit more KO, because I know Kieran isn't too weak to KO, it's like 1 star weak, but you can still get KOs off, right? And I also got the Affinity Booster to try and get a little bit more damage. You might think, well, why not use the Apothecary Mantle since you're using statuses? Because the Apothecary Mantle increases the chance of dealing status damage, but when you use a coating, it guarantees that you deal status damage. Unless I'm completely misconstruing that, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So there's absolutely no point to using an Apothecary Mantle on a bow when you're using coatings. Maybe if you're using like a blast bow or a poison bow or a bow that has an actual status, sure, but even then it's kind of like, well, you've still got the coatings. So I decided against that because I didn't think it was actually doing anything. So I decided, you know, get some affinity, because I think I had a little bit of affinity from attack boost. I could be entirely wrong. In fact, I'm almost certain I'm wrong, but affinity doesn't hurt anyone, you know. And there's nothing else that really increases your damage. Like Evasion Mantle, don't really care about that. I'm not dodging these attacks with precise timing. I'm dodging these attacks with positioning. So the Evasion Mantle doesn't really do anything for me except change how my dashes work. And if they give you Evade Extender, then that could really screw me over, because I could accidentally dodge into attacks that without it I wouldn't, and it could just mess things up in general. But I don't know, I haven't experimented with the Evasion Mantle because I don't actually have the Evasion Mantle. So even if I did, I don't think I would use it. But anyway, yeah, just focusing on pure offense. Kieran does actually have some pretty dangerous physical attacks. Like if it tries to like hit you with its horn, it does actually do a lot of damage. Obviously it's not the main focus of Kieran. Kieran's main focus is of course just dealing as much like elemental damage as possible, but you do actually have to watch out for that physical attack, which is surprising. As I craft some more ammo. Not using the blast coatings to set off the barrel bombs, because I'm trying to set off the barrel bombs in a way that I hit the barrel bombs and not Kieran's to do the most amount of damage, to do the wake up damage. And of course I don't want to waste a blast coating on not hitting Kieran. You know. But I think this is the new build. Yeah, you can see I'm using the Nergigante coil, which is really nice. But yeah, after this I managed to get the maximum research levels and all of that. I managed to get the monster PhD, so now I don't have to worry about that at all. It's another thing ticked off of the list. I can now focus on finishing off those charms, although that's probably going to be the week after next, because of course this Friday all of the old what are they called, events are coming back, which means I get to do them. It's gonna be Event Mania next week, and even when I do, or if I get all of the events done, I imagine one of my friends, or maybe multiples of my friends, will want some help getting through the game, and yeah, that was that. Gets one shot even with Thunderproof Mantle on. But anyway, basically I'm going to be pretty busy from next Friday onwards, so we might not actually get a lot of farming for what we want done. But anyway, this is my new and improved guild card, so I will leave you with the rest of this. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.